Hey there, my name is Gjerda, and I like to think I have some good feedback about Destiny. This is the second video in a 3-part series about Trials of Osiris. In the first video, I provided a specific list of issues with Trials of Osiris, so feel free to check that one out for some background. In this second video, I'm going to provide specific ideas about how to fix each issue I identified with Trials of Osiris. The third video zooms way out and asks questions like, why do we play, what makes a good shooter, and what does the future really hold for Destiny? I really hope you'll hear me out and that you let me know what you think. Let's jump in. First issue I saw with Trials was connections. This is a problem at the core of Destiny PvP. From what I understand, a mix of several factors can contribute to Destiny PvP feeling laggy and random. Unfortunately, I think revamping the core operation of how Destiny connects players to each other over the internet would be a massive undertaking, and revamping that entire system is not something that's likely attainable or worthwhile for Bungie. Plus, the main way to improve connections lies in players simply having good internet. However, I do think there are some fixes here that are attainable and worthwhile. For instance, I think Bungie could evaluate player connections and exclude players with poor connections from endgame PvP. For example, if you have a historically poor connection, you would be presented with a warning before queuing into Trials that says something along the lines of repeated poor connection status in this particular playlist will result in a 15-minute ban just from this playlist. I think stages of time restrictions could increase over time, incentivizing people to only play with a decent connection, which to be honest is very attainable. If a player has historically extremely poor connection, the game would be able to know this and would limit them from queuing into Trials at all. A simple in-game speed test could show you your latency and give you a concrete number so you can understand exactly how bad your connection is and be incentivized to improve it. Of course, issues with Destiny servers will still make things feel unreliable sometimes, and you'll still get killed by snipers who you can't see yet, but essentially I think asking people to treat endgame PvP seriously connections wise is totally fair. Again, this is all assuming Bungie wants Trials to be a more competitive environment, and if they don't, that's okay. But if they do, insisting that players at least have a decent connection to the game is a completely acceptable request to make for the good of both teams. Or even better, players with good connections can match only other players with similarly good connections. I'd rather play one good match rather than 3 somewhat laggy ones where I'm getting cheesy kills or people are getting cheesy kills on me. Plus, with positive changes like this, that's going to make people feel like the game is a more competitive environment, which will improve player population, thus reducing queue times. Quick note, the next issue I identified in the last video was third-person peeking. Now, I think this one is really simple, so I'll keep it quick. It just needs to be disabled in endgame PvP. It's extremely clear to me, and probably everyone else who spends time in competitive modes like this, that 3 peeking is extremely powerful. It totally breaks the rules of a shooter and slows matches way down. It could be as simple as banning swords from certain playlists, or changing it so if you equip a sword without ammo, you stay in first person. As for emotes, just turn them off until a round ends. I really don't think this needs a lot of discussion, just needs to be changed. It just probably is very low priority, which is unfortunate because I think it's one of the most glaring and detrimental issues to high-level PvP and a really attainable fix. Okay, anyway, on to the next issue. The next problem I identified in the first video was cheating. Things like DDoS protection and fixing map exploits are slowly being implemented, which is great. There are still things like outright network manipulation and hacking that need to be addressed more harshly. Like I said last time, requiring people to connect a phone to their accounts to play Trials is a great change. Same with suing companies well known for providing Destiny 2 cheats. I hope that all continues. Same with requiring players to have a high power level to enter Trials. The best way to combat cheating has always and will always be fast and severe account bans. Unfortunately, in many cases, we see cheaters being allowed to use their accounts for a really long time before getting banned. Now, this definitely is a tightrope to walk because, on the one hand, Bungie doesn't want to reveal their methods for catching cheaters because that'll make it easier for cheaters to escape. On the other hand, this makes it so when we see cheating accounts with plenty of flawlesses, it makes it feel like the efforts are not working, when in fact they probably are in the background, they're just going really slow. I really hate playing armchair developer here, but what I can tell you is this: the parameters by which Bungie decides to ban an account need to be stricter and way faster. If you have 100% accuracy or close to it with your weapons across hundreds or thousands of kills, it's kind of obvious. If you're on a 50 game Trials win streak with like next to no deaths, that's kind of obvious too. Or if you start a match with a super or with heavy ammo, that's kind of obvious. I think there are a lot of parameters and clues around ammo count, accuracy, abilities, and win streaks that can be implemented to make Bungie's job easier on deciding when to ban someone. But I think it's really important to bring up the point that beating back the endless creeping weeds that is cheaters is a never-ending battle for all games. It's just like a normal maintenance part of any game, like regularly taking a shower. Bungie needs to devote more resources to strengthen their anti-cheat operation and improve player trust in the system. They simply need more people evaluating reports of cheating so they can make it a bigger headache for cheaters to ruin everyone's fun, so much so that it simply isn't worth it for cheaters to cheat. Making players feel the game is more fair will also help improve player population. I do think cheating has been reduced over time, but honestly, on Trials weekends with low population, it shows me just how much further we have to go on this front. Granted, that's what I get for playing on Sunday nights on unpopular maps, but still, there's absolutely work to be done. No matter how much someone plays Destiny, they deserve to have fair matches consistently. It's getting pretty old for people who play PvP seriously, and it really still needs some work, so I hope Bungie makes it clear to players how we can help, because we do want to help, but for now, I would recommend stricter ban parameters and more resources invested into the anti-cheat system, plus partnering with more fellow game companies who can help sue cheat developers like Bungie did with Riot Games. All promising things for sure, I just really wish it were moving more quickly and intensely to get high-level PvP back on track. Okay, thanks for listening to that chunk. I know that topic gets old, but it still is a problem, and so it's worth mentioning. The next issue I identified in the list from my last video was Trials matchmaking. Currently, this is not great because it can match players of very unequal skill together. In part, this is an issue with low population and casual players being driven out of Trials faster and faster. It feels really bad and makes people just quit if every other game or every few games they match an elite death squadron where their chances of winning are unbelievably slim. Matching teams within their skill range is one more way Bungie can make players feel like Trials is more fair. One suggestion I've seen in a few places is this: after you've been flawless once in a week, you're moved into a new queue consisting of other players who have been flawless that week. Now, I actually don't think this would work right off the bat because the population is way too low for that right now, but I do think something similar could be implemented. After you've been flawless once in a weekend, your account is far more likely to match other players who have been flawless that weekend too. And if you have less than 3 flawlesses on your account record ever, you should only match people of the same count or rarely people with more. This cuts into a deeper issue with Destiny PvP, which is how Bungie evaluates player skill. In a game mode like Trials, once again, the way to get people to play is if they feel it's fair. It can and should be challenging, but people need to feel like the time they spend actually has a chance of netting them a win or at least some rewards. I think for someone's first card in a week, matchmaking needs to present fewer challenging teams, even at the trade-off of longer queue times. The next issue I identified was low population in Trials. You can easily see how steadily the population has been declining and the record low it's getting to. Intense population loss is an overarching issue connected to a lot of things, and I think this can be mitigated through several routes, especially the ones I just spoke about previously. Low population is one of those problems that's tied to so many others, and there isn't just a single fix for it all. It's going to be a big balancing act. However, I think the next topic is one of the best fixes for improving Trials population, and that's rewards. Trials rewards need a serious rework. People play Destiny for a lot of reasons, but seeing as Destiny is a looter shooter game, the loot really needs to be good as the shoot to capture both those who love to loot and those who love to shoot. And to be honest, many of us love to do both equally. Here are the ways I think the Trials loot system could be improved. First off, casual players need to be showered with rewards if they're ever going to set foot in Trials again, especially after knowing this game mode for having a reputation of poor rewards, cheaters, and super sweaty PvP players. However, you can't just determine who's casual and who's sweaty and give different people different rewards. But also, some easy improvements are still attainable here. First off, a deterministic loot system needs to be implemented for something as intense as Trials. Saint 14, the Trials vendor in the tower, needs to sell predetermined rolls of weapons and armor that people can buy for tokens. Also, tokens need to drop much more generously. I don't think this would be an issue at all. Speaking of loot, I think with every single win on a card, you need to be granted more loot, not just 3, 5, 7 and flawless, even though I know that's traditional or whatever. Being extremely generous with rewards along the way to flawless, even if you just get 3 wins, is something that would vastly improve participation in Trials. If people are going to spend time in a playlist like Trials, they need really good rewards for their time spent. That time investment needs to be highly respected and rewarded. Plus, for players at the flawless tier, adept weapons can still be that special thing that only they have. There could certainly be more for those who are able to go flawless consistently to show off, but for now, I don't think that's a priority. Now, speaking of adept weapons, it feels really bad that I have the Astral Horizon God roll and it is sunsetting, but if I earn the exact same thing as an adept weapon, I can keep using it. That's just an objectively bad feeling. However, I really don't want this to get into sunsetting too much because that's just a too big of a can of worms for this video. I think the issues are pretty clear-cut with Trials. It's already a game mode with not so great rewards for your time investment, but on top of all that, the guns you earn are sunsetting. So unless the loot table is refreshed every other season, in seasons like this one where we're kind of wrapping up the loot system of Trials, the Trials population is going to seriously suffer, because who wants to suffer for loot that's sunsetting in a month or two, especially if you want to use that loot in Destiny endgame content. We are due for a Trials rewards refresh soon, that's true, but unless there's some sort of lenience added to sunsetting about Trials loot, considering how difficult it is to get, every time the loot group ages in Trials, the population will just totally fall away again until the loot gets refreshed again. More and more, I'm wishing for some sort of kiosk in the tower where you could just boost the power cap of certain weapons for a lot of upgrade materials. I just cannot describe how frustrating it is to work so hard for a Trials weapon and then to have it be worthless in Trials. Anyway, enough about sunsetting. Showering people with loot and tokens and introducing a deterministic loot buying system would be a massive improvement, even in the face of sunsetting. Okay, onwards. Finally, the last issue I mentioned in the first video was the series of questions or the question funnel that people face when asking themselves, should I play Trials? For those earning money, the answer is pretty easy, just yes, because money. But for those who do not earn money from Trials, they need to either feel like it's going to be rewarding loot-wise or just plain old fun, or ideally both. One way I think Bungie could ease the burden of tasks that they ask of casual players before they play Trials is this: introduce matchmaking to Trials. I know that might seem like a bad idea, but I think it'd be really good. Bungie could require, or at least strongly encourage, having a microphone connection and then just pair people together like they do in the survival playlist, who solo queue or duo queue, but then they can stay in each other's fire teams after the match ends. I think players not having to go through the annoying process of building a team and finding a time would be a huge load off and incentivize more players to just jump into Trials and mess about for a bit. Or maybe they'd even find new friends or long-term teammates, or maybe they go flawless. Plus, some people are just honestly too shy or too uncomfortable or don't have the time to use LFG, look for group message boards on Discord or wherever else. Another aspect is that Bungie asks players to be high power level for Trials, and that's for many reasons, including respecting the new rules of sunsetting and making it harder for cheaters to play, but I still think the Trials power cap should move to 1250. That's the high power level this season, but obviously that'll increase next season. For example, in this season, the difference from 1250 to the hard cap of 1260 is very minimal. Let's take the system we have in the Grandmaster Nightfalls, but apply it to Trials. If you hit 1250 power, you're allowed into the playlist, and then any power levels above that don't help you at all. That would make the sandbox feel way cleaner and mitigate weird little scenarios with power difference that feel unreliable and unfair, like weird melee damage, or thorn, or grenades, or burn effects. A balanced PvP sandbox is extremely important, especially in a game mode like Trials, so making everyone the same power level once they hit 1250, for example, I think would make things feel way more even across the board and give people some parameters about the PvP sandbox that they feel they can actually rely on. All in all, it's important that Bungie removes as many questions or roadblocks as possible to casual players asking themselves, should I really play Trials, so they can convert more of those questions into people saying yes. If a majority of PvP players in Destiny feel like matchmaking is easy, light level is not a big concern or any concern, and they know they'll receive really good rewards, people will play this game mode again. It's all about building back the reputation of Trials and making sure people are having positive experiences with it, because after all, it is the PvP endgame experience, so it really needs some love. Well, that's about it. In the first video, I went over exactly what I think is wrong with Trials, and in this video, I've specified exactly how I think it could be fixed. I really hate playing armchair developer, but at the same time, I hope these thoughts are one positive and specific, albeit small, drop in the ocean of feedback Bungie receives about Trials and their video game, and I hope you enjoyed your time here. It took me a long time to research, think over, and write the scripts for these videos, so please consider supporting the channel. At the end of the day, I really want the best for Destiny PvP, and I know many people feel the same way as me. And more than anything, I just want to have fun. Trials of Osiris is definitely one way you can have fun, but it definitely needs some fixes. I look forward to seeing what lies in the future of Destiny PvP, and I hope you do too. In the meantime, I'll be playing Survival and Trials here and there, and probably spending a lot more time in scrimmage communities I've joined where talented and nice players enjoy a specific rule set together in private PvP matches called scrims. If you too are charmed by the potential of Destiny's PvP but just aren't getting your competitive itch scratched, I encourage you to check out the Castle is Live, Patty Cakes, and Ramblin' Discord servers. These guys are great Destiny content creators, and sometimes you can find scrims being organized on their Discord servers. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, let me know your thoughts, and have a great day. Okay, bye bye.